Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, folks? JT here with another Chart Talk Live. Sorry I'm a little bit late, just a couple of minutes, not too bad. I was trying to do too much this morning before this got started. Long story short, what's up, Navy Plum? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's get. Oh, hang on. They've already got Shinobi this morning. Let me let him out of jail. All right, let's get back to the chat. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Good morning. All right, let's get this set up and let me get our trade plans up here. That's, like I said, just trying to do too much this morning before we needed to shift gears over to this. What's up, Riddle? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. All right, trade plans. We have CVX. Oops, wrong chart. Playbook. Go Microsoft. Making moves to the. Oh, yep. Thank you. There you go. You should have it now. What's up, YB? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Just getting my charts ready for us to push through this. What's up, whole minimum? Good to see you. Good morning to you. Amazon. We had 3 last Thursday, if I remember correctly. Apply materials and come on, let's go. There we go. Poet, that's right. Okay, cool. We are lined up. We are ready to go. Thank y'all for being here bright and early. Let's dig in. Let's get to work. What are we seeing in the markets? Um, well, again, kind of going back to the analysis that I pushed out last month. We have made the downside corrective move. In my opinion, the question is, do we correct further now at this point? Clearly, we got a strong bounce off this 64.83.25 level that was also right in this weekly demand zone. Tried to bounce out of that initial target, but again, we dipped a little bit lower, maybe a little bit of a liquidity grab right before things pushed on some potential developments of what I would probably call an off ramp with regards to the conflict in Iran. So, um, things are still very fluid, very hard to tell what's true and what's not as far as what different news outlets or government representatives are reporting. So, uh, again, trying to trade news is nearly impossible because you're essentially trying to anticipate something before it's happened. So again, I've said this before, but I'll repeat it here this morning. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend just focusing on the charts. Find setups that you like, because more often than not, we'll find that charts will precede the news, and you could wind up in the right position before that news hits the wire and the big move happens. But don't base that on some assumption or some feeling or belief that, oh, this is going to be over sooner rather than later. There's no telling when all this stuff is going to wrap up and the market will have less uncertainty floating around. So, again, best thing you can do is just focus on good setups like buying at support in a weekly demand zone. Not the worst idea, because you're working off of a technical factor. Then the news comes in and gives you the opportunity to make money that you probably would have made just in a much shorter amount of time. So again, keep your heads on a swivel, stay focused on the level, stay focused on the charts. Don't get too hung up on the narratives. or the headlines. I know that they will move the price action around significantly, but if you're taking good setups, it should benefit you when that news comes out. Again, always possible that it sends things the wrong direction, but there's no anticipating that. There's no way to put any data around that, right? That's just, unless you've got some kind of inside information. When I say inside, somebody directly who is sitting, possibly even in the White House and says, hey, this is getting ready to happen, then okay, maybe you've got something. But other than that, anticipation is much like FOMO. It's a great way to just wreck your account, because anticipation is a different kind of FOMO. Most people think of FOMO as chasing. Big moves already happened and now you're chasing the move, so that's the fear of missing out there. But the fear of missing out as far as like, oh, I'm going to catch the perfect bottom here, or I'm going to catch the perfect top, I think is just setting yourself up for heartbreak. So again, keep your heads on a swivel, focus on the charts, and just execute, and understand that you're probably going to have to ride out some sketchy moves in some cases. All right, so but very much kind of in a no man's land here. We are trying to double bottom off this recent low. If that breaks, we could come back down and retest the 64.8325 level, or potentially try to make a lower or a higher low off of that initial target that we had for this corrective move there at 65.2450. Again, we've had that level on watch since February. So yeah, sure, we'll take a look at those for you stats. Good to see you. Thanks for joining this morning. All right, so let's get to some trade plan recaps. What are we looking at with regards to our trade plans that we've got in place? We have CVX, Chevron, obviously gas company. Things could get quite bullish for it if things continue to escalate or become problematic with regards to the Strait of Hormuz, or just kind of any other massive negative developments with what's going on over in Iran. So we did get the confirmed break yesterday, but a little bit of a pullback on that ceasefire talk, possibly a month-long ceasefire. Maybe that gives us a window of opportunity to build a better off-ramp where we can actually wrap this whole thing up, but that remains to be seen, and I would certainly, again, not anticipate or make any assumptions about how that's going to play out or when that's going to play out. Just focus on the charts. So CVX back above the call entry here this morning. Keep an eye on it. It might start pushing through some of these price targets today, just depending on a number of variables. But again, we got to stick to the charts. So let's do that. Microsoft is continuing to push to the downside. We did this one Tuesday, gave us the break below, took it to PT1. Back tested that put entry there yesterday. That gave us PT1 plus, now moving down toward PT2. PT3 down there at 360.10. That also puts us in daily demand for Microsoft. So if you're looking to start to build a long-term position in this name, which I think, of all the Mag 7, it's certainly seen the biggest correction so far this year. I'm also very positive on kind of them starting to monetize this Copilot and starting to turn some of their AI investments into returns. So 360 is a level that I've actually been watching and would add to my existing Microsoft shares down there. And I plan on adding a decent chunk, but still leaving plenty of dry powder down if we do get down to 360.10. So keep that in mind for your long-term portfolio. That's not really a trade. That's just a buy and hold type investment. So don't put more money into it than you're willing to just forget about for a little while until all this stuff gets figured out and Microsoft finally does bounce, which is almost inevitable. Amazon, we did last Thursday on the live stream. It gave us a gap down below PT1 after that confirmed break, but of course with the rest of the market, it pumped pretty hard. Took us almost all the way up to PT1. Again, this volatility on Amazon is pretty extreme, actually. held the put entry there yesterday in a fairly, or sorry, Tuesday in a fairly consolidative day, but ultimately broke back above, gave some back tests there into the beginning of the trading day, and another test there at the stop loss average down for the call side. So good opportunities to add, and then take some profits up on that pump back up close to PT1. Back in no man's land though at the moment, so we'll keep Amazon on watch. This plan will get replaced today. So if you like, if you want to keep this one on watch, make sure that you're plugging in these levels on your chart, or if you have the trade plan navigator indicator that I built for TradingView and offer for free access to paying Xtrades members, plug these levels into the trade plan navigator, or remember to save your indicator template with the symbol so that you've got it in your back pocket if you want to continue to follow this while we move on to the next plan. Applied materials, we talked about this on Tuesday. Let's talk about it one more time. Gave us that back test of the call entry, 333 SMA sitting right there on the hourly chart, bullish flag on NTS, so lots working for applied materials there. Big move there on Tuesday, big move back down yesterday. So again, just kind of crazy volatility, coming back for another test of the call entry there at 356.59. 333 SMA still sitting right there, so could be another interesting confluence entry, could give us a good bounce off that 356.59. We also have some additional confluence now down here at 349.13. That's the key buy level on NTS, with some confluence right there on that stop loss average down level at 349.13. So that could be a decent level to watch to potentially buy the dip on applied materials if you decide to wait and don't get in at the call entry there at 356.59. But again, I like that confluence. I like that confluence. So that could be your bounce. And if that doesn't bounce, that could be your next bounce. Only if you buy 247 shares. Let's see, what do we have? Last but not least, we have Poet. Poet's kind of just been chopping in this range between the stop loss, shared stop loss average down for both our plans and the put entry at 583. Keeps giving these little, looks like it's going to make that breakdown move, but bounces. So I might have the put entry maybe a little bit higher than I should have it, but we haven't really seen it push above the stop loss average down. And again, building some really good sell pressure confluence up here right at the top of the NTS bearish flag here on the hourly chart, along with the 200 and the 333 SMA. So again, Poet looking like it may continue to pull back before it sees a bounce. All right, let's get to some new trade plans. Turtle Trader in here. First thing, coin. Let's take a look at coin. Let's see, I knew I have some levels on coin. Let's clean this up. Our previous trade plan for it laid out really nicely. Gave us a couple of PT3 tests yesterday. Really got hammered. I think on that news about, and I haven't read into it very much, but something to do with like rewards for crypto that coin is holding for you and stuff like that. I think that there's some legislation, that's the word I'm looking for, out there that may have an impact on that. And coin, I think, benefits heavily from those types of rewards. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But this is also an interesting level I don't have yet that I want to go ahead and mark real quick. All right, so let's get to it. I'm really thinking this 174.64 should act as key support, but if it gets lost as support or gives way as support, could see another move to the downside. Low there. Just want to see if I can get any more. It might be wishful thinking. Maybe not. Let's see what this shows us. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been eyeballing as a PT1. Just a little bit short of it on that recent bounce, but that was with bullish flag 333 SMA below. Now we're bearish flag, SMA's overhead. So we may not find an early bounce. It may make it all the way down to 169.02 on that next break below 174.64. Make a small adjustment to this. There is a gap to fill. Definitely look to take some more profits on the downside move. Take that off for a second. On that gap entry level, it's going to be a tight PT2 and 3 here, but there's also that gap that'll fill pretty close to PT3. Seen some good support bounces off that in the past, so I know this is kind of a tight PT2-3, but either of these levels could be a near-term or potentially even longer-term bottom for coin, so I certainly think that those are good spots to finish taking profits off the downside move. Let's see. Small gap to fill overhead there. Yeah, it's gonna pretty much set us up for a 1-to-1 risk reward. Might even be a little bit more than 1-to-1. Take a look at this level real quick. I just don't want to put us in a position that we're cutting a trade when it could be right at a point of rejecting again. Yeah, this is tough. I want to put in an arbitrary stop loss. Don't want us to get shaken out early. Also want decent risk reward on these plans though, so that is something to keep in mind. Usually it's not an issue, but I just want to see. Yeah, it's right there. All right, I am gonna tighten this up just a little bit. And what I'm looking at is this resistance that we're kind of finding just overhead, bounced off that level there recently. So below 174.64, I would certainly want that resistance to hold if I'm going to continue to stick to the downside trade plan there. That also sets us up with a little bit of a better risk reward. Upside, I think there's an opportunity here. Let me get indicators back on. I just wanted to see those price levels for a second. I think 191.01 is definitely a reasonable target. PT1, PT2, I'd take it up here. Confluence sitting there currently, 333 SMA, top of the NTS flag. Also see some price action that tells me that could be a good spot to take profits. And last but not least, up here, 199.87. All right. So let's get this locked in. Ooh, I don't think that's that level. Hang on. I think that's actually 194.81 and 199.7. Yep, looks good. All right. All right, let's lock it in. Here comes your coin live stream plan. And over in the elite chat. All right, let's get this alert set. That's cool. That looks good. We're looking at April 1st. Close of business. All right, last but not least, so we can circle back to this on our next live stream. We'll get it locked in there. All right, let's talk through it real quick before we move on to the next trade plan. What are we looking for here on coin? We're looking for a break over 184.21 that should bring price targets at 191.01, 194.81, and 199.87 with a stop loss average down at 180.57. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 174.64 that should bring price targets at 169.02, 164.45, and 161.52 with a stop loss average down at 178.40. That is your coin live stream plan. Let's go. All right. It's Tesla time. All right. Coin, yeah, Tesla. All right, let's do it. I haven't looked at Tesla in a while. Tesla, what do we want to do? Definitely a good confluence down here at 370.24. Right there at the bottom of the NTS flag. Let's see. Yeah, might, yeah, there we go. Yeah, there was an interesting little break above and bounce off this level. Yeah, you know what? I am going to make a small adjustment to this level right about there. Let's see how that looks with what I was looking at. Yep. Good PT2 there. PT3, that's an interesting bounce. I mean, I know we had that news, but again, charts often precede the news, so I want to see if this, yeah, 356.79 level is significant, and it is. Prior resistance, big bounce off of that level. resistance there again. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. Yep. All right, so last question. Stop loss, average down. Again, it's been a little bit since I've looked at Tesla, so it could be developing or showing us some new support and resistance. I do like that as a stop loss average down there. Upside. Yeah. All right, where's PT2 gonna be? Yeah, right here. Yeah, I would also add that level there. Stop loss average down. Yeah, right here. All right, those look like some good plans. So stats, you're definitely in a decent confluence here pre-market of support at 379.85. Another good price target down there at 375.70. If it, if you're still holding it, it makes it down to 370.24. Say that's probably a pretty good spot to go ahead and finish taking profits on puts. That's just my quick take on that. All right, let's get this dialed in. Yeah, I don't personally trade Tesla either, which is why I don't look at it very much. That's been a rule I've had from, gosh, probably my first couple of years of trading. The risk reward has just not been there for me. Oops. Oh gosh, I messed that one up. That's what it was. 37.24 there. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's good. All right, 37.364.24. 679. That looks good to me. Let's clean this up. All right, let's get this locked in here. All right, here comes your Tesla live stream plan. Yeah, no, book those profits, bro. Profits aren't really anything until they're back into cash in your account. All right, so let's get this posted in the chat so we can get our link. Links in there. So let's set our alert. That looks good. And last but not least, let's save our template so we can circle back to this. All right, so let's talk through this real quick and then we'll move on to the next one. What are we looking for here on Tesla? We're looking for a break over 387.16 to play for the upside. It should bring targets at 393.98, 398.43, and 403.82 with a stop loss average down at 382.19. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 375.70. That should bring price targets at 370.24, 364.24, and 356.79 with a stop loss average down at 379.85 for that downside plan. Those are your Tesla live stream plans. Let's go. All right, let's see. Tesla Wolf. Well, Wolf might be the next request there, Gardle. So, yeah. Yep, let's take a look at it. I remember trading Wolf, not, I think that was Wolf that I traded at some point. Let's take a look at it. Didn't I do? Yeah. Yeah, the last time we did a trade plan on Wolf, it was down here. So it's been a little bit. Yeah, back in September of last year. Went for a lot more than PT3 on that one. All right, let's get it dialed in now. Uh-oh, sounds like Gardle's looking for some some downside. All right, let's take a look at this. Zoom down a bit. Gonna need to add some levels, obviously. Yeah, there's definitely something right there. I like the discussion happening, fellas. It's good stuff. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. This level might be just a little bit lower, actually. Right about there. There's an interesting rejection right there, though. I want to see if that stacks up to anything. Yeah, there are a couple levels there, kind of pretty close to each other. All right. $20.05. Hmm. just feel like going for 24 off 20 is crazy greed. It really could be 24.05, I'm not going to lie, but there is a potential rejection there at 23.03, so I would recommend, if I'm torn between two levels like that, always going to be conservative and say go ahead and take some profits, even if we're a little bit early on that first profit take. Not a big deal. All right, I like that upside plan. Does seem to be, it's not a very clean one. A little bit of an uptrend forming, maybe, with a little sweep below there. Let's get into some smaller time frames here. Let's see this a little bit more granularly. Oh boy, I just saw a Goodfellas reference. What is the good analogy? I like that for what your thesis is on Google's stake in TerraWolf here. Then you burn the thing down, right? Get all the value out of it and then burn it down for the insurance money. Shot at this. I'm going a little crazy with that. Yeah, you know what? I think I am. I was gonna say that stop loss average down to the upside is looking a little too generous. Yeah, let's nail this down right here. And I would take some more profits, or the rest of the profits there at 11.95. Who knows, it could go lower, but also got to be very patient for this upside. there is a potential. I'll throw this out there as kind of a shit. Actually, should we change up this upside trade plan? Hang on. Yeah, let's see something here. Hmm. Yeah, you know what? Let's change this up. Yeah, I mean, if we're, yeah, that's a great question. The way that I personally look at charts is if there's data in the range that we're looking at, I don't care how far back we go. Um, you can definitely see where support and resistance was developed. It is still holding. Support and resistance, if you're drawing it correctly is the wrong word. My approach, and when I draw these levels, um, I find that, yeah, you can find levels from forever ago that are still relevant. So, like when I'm doing mentoring with somebody, excuse me, and they're asking, like if I'm looking at this chart, how far back do I go? The question's never for me really how far back. It's more kind of what is the range for the foreseeable future as far as like where do you see like, potential major resistance tests that will take some real volume to break through or major support, and then just chart all the levels in between those two. But AT&T being the example that I use a lot, AT&T isn't volatile. It's a, dividend darling. And so it has, levels that you can go back to like the early 2000s that are still showing support and resistance to this day. Yeah, the company certainly can be completely different, but buyers and sellers and algorithms are looking at support and resistance, price levels, moving averages, things like that. So yeah, I mean, my personal take on it is I go back as far as I can in some cases, to see if I can further validate levels. Now, obviously, if there's been a shift, right? Like if I've got a level that's sort of close, but it's a much older level as far as where we're seeing that price action play as support and resistance. Um, that level can get kind of shifted a little bit up or down as time goes on and kind of get cleaned up is what I would describe that as. So certainly if there's kind of like two levels and it's between, much older price action and more recent price action that I'm, two spots that I'm looking at drawing support and resistance at, I'm definitely going to defer to the more recent price action. Um, but I will absolutely look at charts going back pretty far, and support resistance seems to be pretty steady over time. It's just a matter of finding the right confluences and nailing down those levels with a high degree of accuracy. Um, all right, so let's go forward here a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. All right, cool. Well, that gives us our plans. Let's go. Yeah, and that's just my take. I'm just one person who's been doing this for a while, but plenty of people have done it much longer than me. Things do change, and I am just as capable of being wrong. That's the next guy. But what I've done for the last several years, and it's worked well for me. Wait a second, that's not right. Put entries down here at what, 1584. Let's try that again. There we go. 1446, 1325, and 1195. Stop loss average down at 1709. There we go. That looks solid. All right. Oh, there we go. Oops, I forgot to do this. Lock this in. Here comes your Wolf live stream plan. Alerts. Let's get those locked in. Oops, actually. There we go. And last but not least, all right, we're good to go. So let's talk through this real quick. What are we looking for here on Wolf? We're looking for a break above 1854 that should bring price targets at 2005, 2109, and 2242, with a stop loss average down at 1771. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 1584. That should give us price targets at 1446, 1325, and 1195, with a stop loss average down at 1709. Those are your Wolf live stream plans. All right, folks, we are getting close to actually right at 10 minutes out from market open, so I'm going to take that time to get the daily SPY plan put together and published, so we've got a roadmap for how to execute on that for the day. I want to thank you all so much for joining me this morning. We will be back next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Great discussion in the chat, by the way. Love to see that kind of stuff as I work on these trade plans and can provide some input here and there. So as we always say here on Chart Talk Live, plan your trades, trade your plans. Remember to keep those wins big, keep those losses small, because we're looking for profits, not perfection. So go out there, get some green, have a fantastic day. I will see you guys in the chats, and I'll see you back here live next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, trade safe.